Hey y'all, it's John Mark. I want to ask y'all a question. Did y'all see the promo between Stephanie Vaquer, Liv Morgan, and Dom Mysterio? Dude, it was fire. Not just because it was like intense, it was fire because it was smart. Now, a couple weeks ago, Charles and I talked about how wrestling should draw from social and cultural themes, but that it has to be done carefully, not preachy, not partisan, not heavy handed. It has to reflect something real without turning into a lecture. And this storyline, it's doing just that. So you guys can check out the Spanish translation up here if you didn't already see it, but I'm sure most of y'all have. And we're just going to, hone in on a couple of items that I think are of note. So when Stephanie Vaquer tells Liv, like, you haven't sacrificed anything, WWE's handed you everything. That's not a normal wrestling insult. That's identity warfare. That's not just like I'm better than you. That's you didn't earn this. And in wrestling, question someone's legitimacy, it's nuclear. Vaquer positions herself as a global grinder. She was born in Chile. Wrestling didn't exist there, although we would later find out that, in fact, it does. And she sent out an apology. And I thought that was very classy. Traveling the world, Japan, Mexico, Latin America, Europe, carving out a career without a system. And she contrasts that with Liv, who was homegrown. She was developed in the WWE machine. She was supported by infrastructure. And to think critically, she's protected by Judgment Day. Now, that's archetypal storytelling, folks. Self-made versus system-built. That tension, that is timeless. The other thing where it gets really smart is, Vaquer's promo touches on, the immigrant grind, opportunity disparity between what she had and Liv, representation, gender independence, privilege versus sacrifice. But it never really comes out and says this is about politics. What it says is this is about sacrifice. And that's universal. That's why it works. The best wrestling angles in history have always mirrored society without preaching about society. And this did it in a very smart way. Now, something that I thought was really, really cool, very smart. In fact, it was genius was, Dom as the translation layer. Now, if you go back and take a look at the promo, this is where this is like PhD level. He wasn't just translating. He was filtering. He was choosing his words very carefully. He was pausing. He's looking kind of calculated. And this creates an information imbalance. This is something I saw all the time when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan talking through interpreters, right? There's like what's not actually being said and what's being filtered is like super important. So it really resonated with me. But, in that moment, Vaquer's line about, quote, hiding behind a man, it becomes a reality. And Liv is dependent on Dom, even for understanding her opponent. That's subtle. That's layered. That's not accidental. That's genius. Of course, Liv's reaction, she cried. It changed the promo. She didn't fire back. She didn't come back with her, classic sarcasm. If she had, it would just be another promo exchange, but she didn't. She cried. She walked off. She showed her vulnerability. And that vulnerability means it hit. Vaquer just didn't attack her record. She attacked her legitimacy. And Liv didn't dismiss it. She felt it. And that was so powerful of a moment for me. So let's talk about another thing. And that's kind of like how the WWE universe, the wrestling universe kind of talked about the promo. And I could not help but noticing one of my all-time favorite talents, Mickie James. When you see someone like Mickie James weighing in on social media, someone like her who's a respected veteran, someone revered for her psychology and ring IQ, when she feels compelled to comment, that tells you something landed. And that tells you it wasn't just a surface level trash talk. It struck a nerve. When legends feel it, you better pay attention. This is what intelligent wrestling looks like. So in closing, this wasn't about a championship. It was about legitimacy. And when wrestling taps into real human tension without lecturing the audience, that's when it becomes powerful. If they follow through on this, this could be one of the most layered women's programs in years. And, we'll find out who Liv chooses for Mania, but I would be absolutely shocked if she doesn't pick Stephanie for that reason. This is storytelling done right. So that's all I had to say on that. As a reminder, we're up on X. You can follow and engage us at the Hardway Proj. We're also up on Instagram at the Hardway Project 1. Check us out.